Hey, everybody, welcome back to the first edition of Bold Predictions here inside Nebraska of the 2024 season. With me for these shows this year is going to be Steve Mark and Tim Verghese. I'm Zach Carpenter. The maybe the most anticipated season at Nebraska, and uh, since the first Scott Frost year, probably. I know we probably said that last year, Matt Rule's first year, um, and it was still true then, but now in year two, it's even more highly anticipated.
And you have to thank a certain five-star quarterback for that and a veteran old defense coming back. So, yeah, there's a lot of positivity going around in Lincoln right now outside of like the kicker spot. But that's a story for another day.
Tim, what we got? We're just going. Tim's first on the show. We didn't run through this outline or anything. We're just gonna go boom around. I used to first year on this show, it'd always come back to me. It's like, man, I don't like doing that. I like to be like basketball. I'm the point guard, and everyone just takes the ball after that. So, just any general thoughts as we open up the season here, Tim?
Yeah, just excited to get things rolling. I think the season's big for a couple of different reasons. Of course, like the debut of Dylan Raiola. I've written a bunch of places at this point that what you do on the field this year matters so much for recruiting down the line as well, and just the sustainability of this program as well, in terms of keeping guys in the boat, keeping the staff around. And just for so many different reasons, I think this year you have to kind of win. So a lot of expectations, but a lot of hype as well.
Yeah, that's what we keep talking about. I know that the Colorado game is circled as the big mega recruiting weekend. We'll obviously talk about Colorado in that game when the time comes for it. But I mean, yeah, the recruiting angle is a big one when you're talking about David Sanders when you're that close to a stalwart left tackle. Those guys don't come around very often. It's just guys like that, Michael Terry, who it's like, all right, it's not any one game that's going to decide any major recruitments, but or the momentum swing of this program. But in totality, if you show the product on the field, I mean, uh, things could turn around uh, as quickly as I think Nebraska fans have hoped for a long time. So let's get into this UTEP game, though. With that being said, it's 2:30 p.m. Central Kick on Fox. Uh, 49 and a half is the over under. Nebraska minus 27 and a half per the folks at BetMGM, our partners at rivals.com. Clear skies, clear weather, 80, mid 80s, 87, 88. 0% chance of precipitation. So that weather shouldn't be a factor really at all. So, Steve, what do you got for us? Let's you kick us off.
Yeah, so my first bold prediction, and I'm trying to be bold. I'm trying to work on myself to be bolder with these things. So, Marquise Buford Jr., my bold take is that he's going to have three tackles for loss on Saturday. And I say that because, what's the talk with Marquise Buford? It's that he's going to be starting at corner, at least early in the season. Once he'll be out there and kind of holding down the fort, I guess is a way to say it until one of those young corners, continues to develop and gets more comfortable in Tony White's scheme. And maybe once that happens, whoever it is can take the job over and allow Marquise to kind of rotate back to the safety spot, which we all know him at. But with just looking at the way Scotty Walden's the head coach slash play caller for UTEP, seeing how he does offense, it's a heavy 10 personnel, 11 personnel. A lot of those type of looks. He's going to put a lot of receivers on the field, a lot of skill guys, and he's going to play fast. And just watching their one, I think it was their second game at Austin P, where Scotty Walden coached last season. They went to Tennessee and had the Volunteers on the ropes at halftime, and it was a really fun game to watch and everything. In that game, Scotty Walden was doing a lot of receiver screens. He was doing a lot of quick game, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand because they're probably not going to block Tennessee's pass rush very well. And
Said pass rush, like Chris Collinsworth says it, pass rush, pass
yeah.
rush.
So yeah, I just think it's going to be on Saturday. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be won and lost on the edges, near the sideline with Nebraska's DBs and UTEP's skill players. And I think Scotty Walden is just going to, rather than try to test the middle of Nebraska's defense, which is full of just old veteran players, I think it'd be more wise to put the ball in your skill players' hands in a lot of quick game, side to side quick games, some receiver screens, and try to have your receivers block Nebraska's DBs. And I think Marquise Buford might be tested a little bit. It's going to be his first game in a long time at corner. But I think at 5'11", 190 pounds, we know Buford as like a strong physical safety, and I don't think he's going to be blocked very well by. I don't know if UTEP's receivers have kind of the muscle, the blockers there to kind of make those type of plays work. So I think Marquise Buford is going to see a lot of success in shedding blocks and getting some TFL. So I think he'll get 3 of those on Saturday.
And Tim, before you go with your prediction, what are your thoughts on Steve's? Because we talked we talked so much about the that cornerback 2 spot in the offseason in spring ball and fall, and then it settles on Marquise Buford, who has some experience there, maybe not much college experience at the cornerback spot, but just overall thoughts on some of that with Buford.
Yeah, I like Buford. I think just not even like, but just more so like you talk about in that defense right now or in that secondary, like who's the most versatile guy who can kind of fill in at a couple of different spots. It's him and Malcolm Hartzog, and
Mhm.
like Steve's saying too. I think a corner what Nebraska wants is a guy that can kind of establish themselves physically at the perimeter, hold their own on the perimeter, and Buford does that a little better than
Mhm.
Hartzog does, which is why I think it makes sense for Buford to be a corner for now while you're trying to gain some confidence more than anything with the young guys. I think more than anything right now, I think they have some faith in these young guys, Amari Sanders, Bly Hill, once he gets back from injury, and Dwight Boodle, Jeremiah Charles, some of those guys. I think they have confidence in those guys, but those guys just need to get that confidence in themselves, and that only comes with reps, which they'll get plenty of on Saturday. It's just a matter of time until I think one of those guys starts to eat into Buford snaps, and you see Buford kind of move back and rotating with one of Hartzog or Singleton or Isaac Gifford.
Yeah, I mean, we probably get into this and later, but the you talk about rotation and getting reps. I mean, if Nebraska number one, if Nebraska handles business on Saturday, which I believe they will, but you're gonna get reps for the young guys, those really important early season reps, like you're saying, and with the pace UTEP is uh, projected to run, if Scotty Walden runs the same pace that or similar pace that he did as, when he was at Austin P last year. No reason to think he won't, but they ran Austin P. I calculated it like last week. They ran an average of 158 plays last year, 76 on offense, 81 on defense in their 6 games where they their highest pace games, and that's compared to Nebraska last year, which was 135 plays per game, which is a massive difference. And if there's going to be 81, 82 plays on average, I mean, I don't think we'll get that high on Saturday, but if we're just looking at the averages, then that's gonna mean plenty of opportunities, rotations for some of those guys. I mean, especially in that second level of the defense, linebacker core, maybe the corner spots, especially if that cornerback 2 spot's a little unsettled. You might want to get guys in there before again Colorado and their heavy passing attack coming in next week. So interested to see with Amari Sanders and some of those other guys what who gets in first and for how long, and then obviously how they look on Saturday. With that being said, Tim, with your specific prediction, you going offense, defense? What do we got?
Sticking with the offense, or I guess flipping to the offense, kind of something we touched on earlier this week in Stephen Mai's show. We're going to see Heinrich Haarberg on Saturday in some form or fashion. My bold prediction is we see a Heinrich Haarberg touchdown of some sort, whether that's a rushing touchdown, whether that's a passing touchdown. I think we see a Heinrich Haarberg adds a touchdown to his stat sheet on Saturday. I just think Nebraska's not going to show too much. I think Steve, you and I touched on this early this week. I think Nebraska's going to stay relatively vanilla on offense. I don't think this is the game where you want to show a whole lot of those 2 quarterback packages or do a whole lot with it. But I think, you get into the goal line, you get inside the 20-yard in the red zone. I think you see a play or two where Heinrich comes in and he's kind of running like a QB power, QB counter type thing. From there. And more than anything, too, I also think if Nebraska does handle business, I think, mid third quarter to fourth quarter, we see Heinrich in there just taking basically snaps as the QB2.
Yeah, that simplicity of the offense, not doing much too complex, perfectly sort of segues into my bold prediction because we saw a lot of it in the spring game. Those quick passes to the perimeter, wide receiver screens, I don't know if they're necessarily bubble screens or not, but point is getting the ball to your playmakers, your fast guys in space, with as much space as possible to work, as many downfield blockers to work with, getting the ball in their hands as quickly as possible. I think we're going to see plenty of that on Saturday, just like we saw in the spring game. And my specific bold prediction is that we're going to see Isaiah Nair on one of those quick passes, haul a 40+ yard touchdown pass against UTEP from Dylan Raiola. We we almost got it in the spring game. I think I can't remember if he had stepped out of bounds just barely, or if there was a holding. It was a holding call because they called it back.
I think it was a
So
block in the back
yeah,
by a
yeah. It was
fellow
Emmett
receiver.
Johnson. Yeah, it was Emmett Johnson. That's right. He got blocking the back call, and Isaiah Nair, he was striding out. I think Tim, you were next to me, like pointing that out. You're like, I'm glad to see him striding out like that. Like he looks healthy, he looks confident in his in that knee, in his body. So that gave you a glimpse. I think we'd probably be talking about that a little bit more at large as a Nebraska media base, fan base, if that play goes through, because that would have been like what 70, at least conservatively 60+ yard catch and run touchdown on what was, I believe, just a simple quick pass or screen. So I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of those on Saturday, with them trying to take advantage of a UTEP secondary, which is not going to be as fast as some of these Nebraska receivers. You're talking Jalen Lloyd, Ja'Cory Barney, and Isaiah Nair, just to name a few. I think all three of those guys are candidates to fill this bold prediction, but I'm going with Isaiah Nair specifically to get things started. So with that being said, I don't know if it's going to come in the first half or the second half, but either way, I think it's going to come in the flow of the offense as Nebraska takes care of business on Saturday. I'll give my final score prediction in a second, but we'll get to that. Steve, you're up first. What is your final score prediction on Saturday against UTEP?
Yeah, first of all, I like that call with Isaiah Nair. That was a little shallow drag that they ran, and boy, like you guys are right, he looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, 6'4", 220 pounds. He's got long limbs, long arms, plenty of length, and as we know, the speed factor is there. Saw it plenty when he was burning Mountain West defenses at Wyoming. So we'll see if he can do that same thing against the Big Ten this year. But yeah, official score prediction. I'll go with Nebraska 31, UTEP 14. I think it's a healthy win, but I think UTEP is held out of the end zone for quite a bit, and maybe the second team defense from Nebraska gives up a score or two.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat or similar boat. Kind of 38-17 is kind of my prediction. Just kind of think Nebraska is going to again be able to kind of handle business. I think that 17. It's a little closer maybe at the end of the first quarter, midway through the second quarter than the fan base would like. I think we get like a 10-17 type lead, and then they kind of pull away in the second half, or in the backstretch of the second quarter. But I think Nebraska is going to be able to. I think one thing to keep in mind here. I don't know UTEP's kicker situation. I don't think it's necessarily great. It's probably going to be the biggest stadium UTEP's kicker is going to be in, biggest environment, craziest environment he's going to be in. So I mean, again, if they cross the 50, I think they're going for it on fourth downs. I don't think they're settling for field goals in this type of game. So that's part of the reason why I'm keeping it at 17. I think they do get 2 touchdowns on the board and then maybe tack on a field goal as well.
That's funny because we're all in very, very similar boats. Because what did you say, Steve? 35?
31-14.
31-14, and Tim, you were 35. What
38-17.
38-17, and I'm 35-13. I always like to go with a random, an uneven score, because it's college football and weird things happen, especially when it comes to
season openers.
Season openers, and if you're factoring in any kicking games at the college level.
It's funny because Tim, I actually do know their kicking situation. So if we're talking about place kickers, they're bringing back last year's starter, and check out this name. So UTEP's starting place kicker is going to be, his name is Buzz Flabiano. And so Buzz went 14.
Love it.
Yeah, he went 10 of 14 last year. From 20 to 29 yards out, he was 4-4. So good job, Buzz. 30 to 39 yards out.
I thought you said he did that from 20 to 29 yards specifically. I'm like, he missed 4 kicks from. Okay.
No, 4 for 4. He hit all 4 attempts from 20, 29 yards out. from 30 to 39 yards out, he was 5 of 6. But then once you start stretching that leg out 40 to 49 yards out, he was only 1 of 4. So he had a long of 43 yards last season. Punting situation, they're going to have to replace their returning starter. I do not know who that currently is going to be. Maybe Scotty Walden is going to talk about that on his coach's show tonight in El Paso, but we'll see if I will be listening or not. But yeah, Buzz Flabiano, the Miners place kicker, returns from last season. So there's your UTEP kicking info.
Steve, how long did you research trying to find the punter for UTEP and the kicking stats? You watching kicking film? I imagine
it did not take very long. It did not take very long for me to find out that Buzz is returning, but I maybe spent 3 minutes trying to figure out who the starting punter is going to be, and I moved on without.
I'm guessing that's at least 2.5 minutes, if not longer, than anyone else on this beat, or
maybe
spent on the UTEP punter. I mean, I laugh now, but maybe that it's, again, college football. It's week 1. Who knows?
It's important. Ask Iowa and other Big Ten teams how important the punting game is.
Ask the Bears now. If you watch Hard Knocks, they had a whole segment on Taylor, first name.
Tory.
I was going to say Tony or Troy. I couldn't get there.
The Australian, yeah.
But with my final score prediction, again, going 35-13, because I mean, we're talking kickers. I mean, if it's Alvano, yeah, we saw the ups and downs. It was the definition of an up and down freshman year, where you started off 1 for 5, then he makes like 6 of 7, 7 of 9, and then he ends on the two misses, has 2, goes 1 for 3 in the spring game. On extra points, he was perfect, 27 to 27. And then if it's John Hull or Johnny Hull, as the coaches call him,
of course,
I'm interested. I don't know what range that they would be comfortable trying him out at. Maybe because it's an opponent that you expect to handle. Maybe we see some work there. Maybe they go for it if it's fourth and short, 4th and medium. If it's within that range of the question mark of maybe you can make this, maybe you can't. So I don't know if we're going to be seeing any long field goal attempts, but I think extra points will be solid on the Nebraska side. And then I don't know if UTEP, if they're going to be running that pace against this defense, and then they're getting off the field at a faster pace. I just don't know if this UTEP offense is going to be able, or the UTEP defense rather, is going to be able to hold up against Nebraska offense that's on paper wildly improved from last year. So we'll see what happens.
I think this is a game. I think this is a game where you kind of see like third quarter, fourth quarter. Okay, Gabe Ervin, Dante Dowdle, it's on you. Emmett Johnson, it's on you 3. We're just going to run this out, and you start seeing some 5-10 yard gains turn into 15-20 yard gains.
Kind of like the NIU game last year where Gabe Ervin ran. They Rule in the offseason talked about it so much, like, we want to rush for 75 yards in the fourth quarter. That's when you put teams away. And then Gabe Ervin, I think alone had 75 plus rushing yards. Either way, I know that they were over that mark against NIU. So it could very well possible that we could wind up seeing that. I mean, those are the 2 power backs. Those are the guys that you have in there as the grinders, where on the defense, and then late in the third quarter, throughout the fourth quarter, you just that's when the effects happen of wearing defense down. But before we get out of here, any final thoughts, Steve or Tim?
Just to go back to the place kicking situation with Nebraska. I don't know why we're talking about place kicking so much. I apologize, guys, on this podcast.
Because we're a Nebraska podcast. That's what we do.
Right.
I mean, that's what the fans will talk about it a lot too. So we got to.
You mentioned Tristan Alvano. If it is not Tristan Alvano, it's likely going to be John Hull. And John Hull is a Lincoln Southwest product who spent last season, his true freshman year, at Iowa Western Community College. He did not, in fact, attempt a single kick over there, but he was slated to go to Coastal Carolina and be the Chanticleers, one of their place kickers, but Nebraska got a hold of him instead and flipped his commitment, and now he's a Cornhusker. I do know that John Hull, nobody really knows a lot about him, and he hasn't kicked since high school 2 seasons ago, so that's kind of scary. But he attended the Coles kicking camp, which a lot of good kickers do, who are looking for programs. to kick at, and he had John Holm made a 60-yarder, and of course this was in an empty stadium in some small town somewhere, and he was not in pads, and it was not a real game environment. So who really knows? But
Got to come with the caveats.
yeah, he does have a 60-yard leg at least. So and I think that's something that Rule mentioned too, is he does have a big leg. Accuracy, who knows? We'll see it. But this whole place kicking situation is one to keep an eye on as we enter the season.
Calling him the Joe Milton of kickers.
That's a good one. Yeah, Joe Milton.
I want to give you a fake laugh,
big arm.
Tim, but I have no idea what that meant. Oh, did you say Joe Milton of kickers?
Joe Milton.
Oh,
yes.
okay, yeah,
the quarterback.
Right. I'm on board. Maybe I'd set me up again. But yeah, Tim, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good opportunity to just get some questions answered. Ideally, you'd like one more tune-up game before Colorado, just because, again, like I don't think some people on this beat have kind of made it out to be that Nebraska's not going to struggle with Colorado. I think Colorado's a very real threat. I have them predicted to lose. Nebraska predicted to lose that game, just because of the talent I think Colorado brings in. So you ideally want one, but I think this is a good opportunity to get some questions answered. You're going to get a good test on the edge in Westmoreland. That's a good opportunity to kind of see what Ben Hart and Corcoran are made of this year. They're going to test your DBs just because of how fast they are. Not in the sense of like they're not going to see a Travis Hunter or LeJonte Wester or any of those type of guys on this Saturday, but just the pace that they run with, I think, is going to cause some challenges for the DB. So just seeing how they hold up against that, seeing how the staff kind of tinkers with the rotations in the secondary to kind of figure out who matches up well with this speedy offense. I think it's gonna give us some clarity on what this defense could do next week against Colorado as well.
Steve, I'll give you 15 seconds or less to 20 seconds or less to sound off on Westmoreland. 20 seconds or less.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Zach. All right. Maurice Westmoreland, 6'2", 250-pound edge. I love this cat. He wears number 0. That's an honor in Scotty Walden's program. It's like Matt Rule's single-digit thing. He's going to give Bryce Benhart and Turner Corcoran a really good test, just like Tim mentioned, for a season opener. So Maurice Westmoreland, check him out. Matt Rule called him a pro.
Yeah, I was going to say future NFL guy.
Yes.
No doubt about it. There's no one who gets more excited to watch the opposing team's players than Steve, but it comes from a place of honesty. He likes to see the matchups because those are the fun chess matches that we see.
Oh, I'm so stoked to see Travis Hunter in person. Like I'm so stoked to see him in person. He's electric. He's one of the best I've ever seen. I'm really excited to see him.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, for recruiting Nicks like you, or recruit Nicks like you, and I mean that was in my past, but the 5-star number 1 guy, like all the storylines that come from it, and then he makes that play against TCU. You were probably jumping off the couch, right? Like we saw that all the time in high school. So.
And Jordan Seaton too got another big time true freshman that's looking like he's going to be the starting left tackle. I haven't researched that yet. Is he still on track for that?
I believe so. I saw him out in New Jersey at the Rivals. It was actually the Rivals Philadelphia camp, I believe, but it was like across the way in New Jersey. He's always been a physical. He's been blessed by the football gods with his ability. But that's a little sneak preview of Colorado. But boys, we can't go looking too far ahead, as Rule says. That he wants Nebraska to go 1-0. They haven't started 1-0 since 2019 against South Alabama. So I believe that was the last time they also opened at home and opened the season without a game against a Big Ten opponent. So we're seeing some history in the making. Tony White talked about that a little bit at Tuesday's press conference about the importance of opening at home and then getting 4 straight home games as opposed to last year where you open up against against a Big Ten team and then another Power 5 team on the road. Only school in FBS that had to face that sort of schedule right out of the gate, and we saw the short and long-term effects of that. So it's going to be a little different this time around. At least one would hope if you're the Huskers. But Tony White again talked about that on Tuesday, and you can check out his full press conference on the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel. You can check out all of our videos. Steve and Tim went through the depth chart that was released on Monday and gave their thoughts on that and some additional thoughts on Saturday's game against UTEP in the show, the unnamed Steve and Tim Football Extravaganza podcast. We we have some nominees for a name for that show, but we haven't settled on it. So if you guys have any suggestions, any viewers, listeners, comments on the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, comment on this show or that show that you can find over on our main feed. Encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and get all of our videos dropped directly into your feed. So for Steve, Mark, and Tim Fergisi, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.